This is impossible. I am never gonna come up with an idea for this video.
I've got an idea.
Whoa. Wait. Did you just talk?
I'm always talking, kid. You just haven't been listening. Listen, kid, if you really want to do something worth watching, you gotta do your part.
Do my part.
Sure, millions of people all over the country are doing their part by joining the United Citizen Federation and keeping our civilians safe.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
Yeah, okay, yes, I've seen Starship Troopers, but what exactly is your idea?
It's right in front of you, kid. Make a video deconstructing Starship Troopers.
No, I did a video about RoboCop just last month, and it really seemed like nobody else sees it as a horror movie. And Starship Troopers is amazing, but it's not a horror movie.
Not a horror movie? Not a horror movie? Sure, it's a satirical look at fascism, but the horrors of the world are apparent, from the deaths, from personnel to the eradication of entire cities on Earth, to the very depressing meat grinder known as the armed forces. Just because it's not dark doesn't mean it's not horror.
Huh. I mean, yeah, I guess you're right, but do you really think people are gonna watch it?
2 words, kid. Denise Richards.
Busey. All right, I'm gonna get to work.
Take care of yourself, kid. I'll be in touch.
Look, I don't want to waste anyone's time. We all know that Starship Troopers isn't exactly a horror movie. It's a science fiction intergalactic comedy with a light tone and Neil Patrick Harris.
Try to visualize it.
But it's also a well-made and tightly performed 90s creature feature that is sure to tickle the nostalgia bone for many JoBlo horror fans. And with Paul Verhoeven being fresh on the mind from our RoboCop episode, we thought it would only make sense to follow it up with another Verhoeven classic, which definitely showcases how far the filmmaker has come in the 10 years between films. If you're still not convinced, this film also delivers on terrifying creatures, plenty of blood and guts, and even some boobies for you slasher trope seekers out there. While being more comedy action than anything, Starship Troopers is a film that brings the goods with every action sequence and doesn't spare audiences the gory details, while also giving you sort of a college underdog comedy. And sometimes, that's simply all I'm looking for.
Do you get me?
Sir, yes, sir!
So, my goal today is not to convince you that Starship Troopers is a horror movie, but what's more is that I want to convince you that it's worth watching anyway. And the best way I know how to do that is to put this movie under the microscope and figure out just what makes it so special after all these years. I'm Kier with JoBlo Horror Originals, and you're watching Deconstructing. Released in 1997, Starship Troopers follows the story of Johnny Rico, played by Casper Van Dien, a recent high school graduate living in the 23rd century who decides to skip his admission to Harvard and enlist in the United Citizen Federation, a special branch of military that's engaging in a vast and seemingly endless war with the creatures who inhabit our neighboring galaxies. While his parents don't approve, Johnny's clairvoyant friend Carl, played by Neil Patrick Harris, is also enlisting, but in the Federation's intelligence branch. As well, his friend with benefits, Dizzy, played by Dina Meyer, is also joining up, and so is Johnny's new girlfriend, Carmen, played by Denise Richards. If you were a kid in the 90s, did you know anybody who didn't have a crush on Denise Richards? Comment below. So, when Rico and his friends enter the Federation as newbies, they all quickly climb the ranks of their respective divisions as they each develop their own new relationships and gear up for their mission to take out an army of giant arachnid aliens. And to best look into what makes this movie so good, we're gonna break it down into our 4 key categories. First, we're going to discuss a brief origin of the film and how it got made. This is much more interesting of a topic than you might think, so stick around. Then we'll get into the film's legacy, which includes a similar franchise fate to RoboCop. After that, we'll play a quick game of JoBlo Horror Trivia before we take on our most difficult topic, the movie's X Factor, where we look at that one special something that really makes it shine. If you're interested in revisiting this 90s cult classic and having one hell of a time along the way, then make sure you leave a like on this video and of course subscribe for the best in horror movie content.
I'd expect anyone in this unit to do the same for me.
And let's hit play on Starship Troopers. Okay, so once again, this movie is a collaboration of Paul Verhoeven and Edward Lumiere, the duo that brought us RoboCop. However, instead of being an original story, this film is based on and reworked from a 1959 novel of the same name. The original novel was written by Robert Heinlein, and when I say that the book was reworked, I don't mean the story was completely changed. However, in classic Verhoeven Lumiere fashion, the commentary and subtext of the novel were dramatically altered. Here's what I mean.
Pay attention.
Starship Troopers, the novel, is widely believed to be less of a satirical adventure and more of a propaganda piece for fascism, racism, and the glorification of violent behavior. Now, I haven't read the book, and some that have say that there is a sort of irony and sarcasm in the writing, which makes it more critical of those ideas. It's really not for me to say, but what I can say with absolute certainty is that Paul Verhoeven did basically the opposite of that. Much like RoboCop's commentary on police brutality, Starship Troopers offers a not-so-subtle criticism on military, politics, and general patriotism. You might think that the comedy in this movie comes from those little digs, but it doesn't.
The enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand.
The comedy in this movie comes from the incredible interactions between these young soldiers who are all learning to survive in their new roles. Verhoeven directed these characters to be perfectly likable, brave, tough, and funny, but also kinda dumb. Well, mostly dumb.
Don't think about it. Just go on instinct.
Despite the controversy of the source material, Verhoeven's reputation as a filmmaker got him the street cred he needed to receive a lofty $100 million budget from TriStar and Touchstone. And folks, I do not say this lightly, but they put that shit to such good use with the special and visual effects in this movie. It is way too good to have come out of the 90s. I mean, am I out of my mind, or does this look better than like half of the CGI we see today? That's about half of the movie's total budget, but it is so worth it. Unfortunately, the film barely made its budget back and struggled to break even at the box office, which is a tale too often told with these beloved cult classics. And that brings me to this film's legacy. Despite the movie's lack of profits, Starship Troopers ended up receiving the franchise treatment and getting 2 direct-to-video sequels, Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation, and Starship Troopers 3, Marauder. While Verhoeven was interested in directing a sequel, he stated that he needed time to develop something fresh and new. Unfortunately, due to the low box office numbers, these sequels were never intended to be released in theaters. This caused Verhoeven to walk away from the project, but Ed Lumiere stayed on as the writer of both sequels and even directed the 3rd film himself, which brought back the character of Johnny Rico, played again by Casper Van Dien. More recently, there have been 2 CGI animated films titled Starship Troopers Invasion and Starship Troopers Traitor of Mars. I haven't seen any of these subsequent films, and it's not that I'm not interested in the universe, but more that I'm not looking for a watered-down version of the first film's original message. And from what I've heard, none of the sequels really seem to capture that balance.
Come on, you hey! You want to live forever?
However, there have been talks of a reboot and a legacy TV series that kicked up pre-pandemic, but have since died down into rumored territory. But I do have high hopes that eventually we will get something that does proper justice to this movie. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I really believe that the magic of this cast could take the sequel a long way. While certain actors from the film have definitely reprised their roles in small ways or cameos, I think a Starship Troopers film that brings back the main players who survived the first film, and if we made them the focus of the story and take them on one final mission, maybe then we can get something worth watching and discussing.
Whenever the three of us are together, I feel like things might just work out.
I hope you're right, Carmen.
Verhoeven's use of RoboCop-style propaganda commercials are also very much missing from my life these days, so I'm gonna need more of that ASAP.
The bugs send another meteor our way. But this time, we're ready. Planetary defenses are better than ever.
When it comes to why this particular movie is so beloved, I think it really comes down to a combination of things.
For fans of old science fiction movies, this movie harkens back to those classic Alien films with its retro futuristic aesthetics. And if you love movies like Stripes or even Road Trip, this movie will definitely give you those vibes. If you're simply looking for an empathetic approach to being a young and stupid kid who follows his heart into the most dangerous planets to impress a girl because he's too young and stupid to know better, well, this movie's definitely for you. It explores its share of political themes, yes, but it also explores far more grounded and relatable themes like friendship, loyalty, heroism, and finding your place in either this world or an arachnid-riddled war zone somewhere off galaxy.
Hey, guys, we ought to get tattoos.
Okay, now admittedly, if you're a fan of this movie, you're probably well familiar with this story, but I want to tell it here anyway because in case you don't know it, I think it really speaks to this film's true reach and legacy. And also, it's really cute. During an interview in 2016, Casper Van Dien told a story of a time that he was picking up his 10 and 8-year-old daughters from school. When he pulled up to the pickup zone, he noticed his two daughters talking to some boys from their class, and when they saw Casper, they called out, "Hey, Johnny Rico," as the two had recognized him from the movie. When he asked the boys how they recognized him, they said that their dads had made them watch the film together. That just goes to show you that we're all getting older and this movie is officially a dad movie. But look, I don't have any kids, and even if I did, this is a fucking sweet dad movie.
Van Dien continued with the story, stating that his daughter asked him if he actually went naked for the movie's shower scene. When Casper told his daughter that he did indeed go nude, she replied saying, "Dad, how could you do that to me? My life is ruined."
Who asked you to be so nosy?
And before we move on, let's see if you can answer this question.
During the production, which actor from Starship Troopers suffered from heat stroke while filming in the 120-degree desert weather? Was it A. Casper Van Dien, B. Jake Busey, C. Clancy Brown, or D. Patrick Muldoon? Comment your answers down below.
Well, too bad. We're in this for the species, boys and girls. It's simple numbers. They have more.
Okay, look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. As usual, I am having a very difficult time with this portion of the video. This is just a movie that I adore. It's a movie that works for me on just about every single level, so there is so much to praise. I mean, the movie is practically one giant walking X Factor. This is even Paul Verhoeven's favorite film of his own. And how do I distill that down to one tiny thing that makes it shine?
Well, first I wanted to praise the casting of this movie, and I'm not just talking about NPH and Denise Richards. These movies' supporting cast and main characters are incredible. We get Jake Busey, Clancy Brown, Michael Ironside, Amy Smart, and even Seth Gilliam. These actors are all great on their own, but together, it's truly something special. I also wanted to give the X Factor to Denise Richards just based on principle, and then I even toyed with the idea of using this section to discuss the incredible CGI and visual effects that hold up so well. But the truth is, you've heard all of that before. You already know that the creature design is flawless, the comedy is raunchy and light, the performances are perfectly dialed in, and Johnny Rico's hair is literally ideal.
Hey! What? You're drifting!
But what I think is the glue that holds it all together is the brave and controversial decision of Paul Verhoeven and Ed Lumiere to adapt a book written in hate and turn it into something that brings people joy. Imagine reading a book or seeing a movie that you don't necessarily agree with, or in fact is the exact opposite of things that you personally believe. Then imagine taking that thing that you didn't like and telling the same exact story but flipping it in a way that it means the exact opposite. It is brilliant. It would be like taking the Titanic and then remaking it into a commercial for cruise ships, and then making people like it. If you ask me, it more than deserves the praise that it gets as a cult classic film.
Here's a tip. Aim for the nerve stem and put it down for good.
Thank you for watching our show. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like for encouragement and a subscription for the very best in horror movies. And apparently also Paul Verhoeven movies. Good night, everyone.